1. Anti-ICE protesters aren't revolutionaries. They are reactionaries. Emotional, half-informed, empowered by friend-of-friend hearsay they've mistaken for truth. Their understanding of ICE comes less from court records and more from the talk of the town, TikTok rants, and campus slogans. Depth on this matter isn't their strong suit. They're loud, self-righteous, allergic to complexity, and overcome with blind rage. Chanting nonsense slogans is their game, and logical, real-world policy debate is not their game. Some scream obscenities at ICE officers and cry their lives have been ruined, painting themselves as victims of some unholy cleansing. Others say nothing. They've given up on words and speak now only in brick and stone, and blood to them is the only response they'll hear. They've dehumanized ICE completely, seeing only the incarnation of evil, sent to destroy everything they love. The entire immigration debate, to them, isn't a complex issue. It's not about law, fairness, or national structure. It's simple. I'm hurt, my community is hurt, so whoever enforces the rules must be evil. No depth, no accountability, just rage and self-pity. They dehumanize the people enforcing the law while demanding limitless compassion for breaking it. In this, they see red and think only in black and white. If you're filled with rage after this intro but compelled to watch, going through sections 6, 7, and 8 might squall that rage and compel you to circle back to section 2. Anywho, if you can relax and open your mind and watch from start to end, I do feel strongly this structure is the most solid. Let's get into this now. Think critically, challenge everything, and stay honest, even if it means agreeing where we didn't expect to. 2. What ICE actually does. Before we get into this, let's just get this out of the way in case anyone is wondering or unsure who and what the hell ICE really is and does. Despite sounding like they're ice cold killers, ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And some might say they're the spawn of Satan, but they are just a federal agency that enforces immigration laws. Their job is to find and deport people who are here illegally, mostly targeting those who've committed crimes or threaten public safety, human traffickers, drug smugglers, rapists, you name it. Keyword, mostly. We'll get into the specific data on what ICE does later. Whether you like it or not, though, ICE is doing a job most Americans want and need done, protecting our borders and enforcing the law. They don't always do a good job. Sometimes they do a catastrophic job, and it's hard to know just how much they really mess up. They're in serious need of reform. But in case anyone's forgotten, and these ICE protesters sure do seem to have, migrating to any country without going through the proper legal system is illegal. And we need ICE to keep our national security and economy out of DEFCON 1. Now, let's get into this. 3. Protester arguments and why they fall apart. A. They work hard, so let them stay. The emotional appeal of this one is pretty obvious. But that's all it is, emotion. Just because someone works hard doesn't make their immigration status legal. America, like every country on earth, has immigration laws. Hard work doesn't exempt you from them. Just like you don't get to skip taxes or blow through red lights because you're tired or mean well. And if you do, you still broke the law. And if you get caught and are punished, that's justice. Whether you agree with it or not, law without enforcement is just a suggestion. And society does not and cannot run on suggestions. We need laws and enforcers of those laws, like the police, border patrol, and your not-so-friendly neighborhood ICE. Here's what never gets mentioned in these protests. Legal immigrants also work hard. They waited, paid fees, got vetted, followed the rules. Why don't we chant for them? What message does it send if those who skip the line are rewarded and the ones who do it the legal way get ignored? This isn't about being heartless. I've worked in restaurants for years. I've known dozens of undocumented migrants from Latin America, some of the kindest, hard-working people I've ever met. Part of me wants to just hug them and pray they never get caught. But if they do, I can't pretend ICE is evil for doing its job. It's tragic, but not unjust. They broke the law. That's a legal reality. That's not a hate crime. Here's something to chew on. Imagine you go to Japan on a tourist visa, or pick your bucket list country, and you just love it so much there and decide it's where you want to live forever, and you never leave. You pick up a job in a mountain town, getting paid under the table, have a family, and live that way, say 10, 15 years. Then one day, ICE samurais knock at your door and say, "Prepare to die, ninja," or "Time's up." Can you imagine going, but I've been here so long now and I've evaded you so many times, and I work hard, and I have a family, and I don't care about or respect your laws. I deserve to stay. You're just racist. If you can imagine that and feel you would say something like that in earnest, well, congratulations. You are an entitled, silly person. You believe feelings should override law. B. ICE is racist. The race argument falls apart pretty much immediately under basic math. Ever wonder who hates basic math? Anti-ICE protesters and my mother. There's guaranteed to be some racist people in ICE, just like there are probably a racist person at your neighborhood Wendy's. But the organization itself has no proof of being racist. ICE removed 271,484 non-citizens from October 2023 to September 2024, the most in a year since 2014. According to the fiscal year 2024 annual report, the top origins: Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, again, mostly Latino, yes, but that mirrors the actual undocumented population. Around 43% are Mexican, and the rest are spread across Latin America, Asia, Europe, and Africa. That means thousands of Indians, Chinese, Russians, and Africans were also deported. So if you're screaming ICE is racist, show me the data. Proof they ignore Russian or Indian illegals while only targeting Latinos. Until then, it's not fact, it's just delusional empathy masquerading as truth. C. ICE is abusive and doesn't give due process. Let's start straight on this one, as you'll get the most agreements from me here. Yes, ICE has illegally barged into homes and detained people without warrants. That's not rumor, that's fact. Take the January 2016 raids in Georgia, where ICE agents entered houses posing as local police, forcing entry under false pretenses. In Atlanta, one family of 4, including young kids, was detained and moved hundreds of miles away, all without a warrant. Damn. And this isn't just a one-off. Back in 2013, 22 Latino residents in New York sued ICE over warrantless home raids. The agency paid $1 million in settlements and agreed to new rules requiring consent or actual warrants before entering a residence. Why that wasn't there before, God only knows. Between 2010 and 2016, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, ICE's parent agency, logged over 33,000 misconduct complaints. Yet, only 33 were conducted by DHS's internal oversight bodies. 33 out of 33,000. That ratio is horrific. That's a worse follow-through rate than any New Year's gym membership. Those abuses are real, systemic, and inexcusable. They've terrorized families, destroyed trust in law enforcement, and violated constitutional rights. Straight violated. This ain't hyperbole. These are not isolated incidences to be brushed aside. But here's the bigger picture. Yes, ICE has carried out unlawful home raids. We've just named a few specific cases. And there are thousands of misconduct complaints on record, These are real, systemic issues. But, and it feels bananas to say but after all that, but to put it in perspective, ICE makes over 170,000 interior arrests every year. It's about 300 to 400 arrests per day. Here's why the math gets blurry. We know illegal warrantless raids happen, sometimes hundreds of times nationally, but we do not have a reliable, publicly available number for those infractions. ICE's own data lumps misconduct complaints together without detailing how many led to confirmed illegal raids, or what percentage that is of total arrests. So here's the honest take. Yes, unlawful raids happen, and they're horrific. Yes, we have thousands of misconduct complaints, but only a handful are even investigated. No, we cannot say definitively how frequent illegal raids are compared to the total arrests. Not that I can find anyways. If you can, I'd love to see the numbers. That means the argument illegal raids are rare is based on an absence of data, not proof. And the argument ICE is all evil is obviously false as well. So we need to operate from clear eyes, not assumptions. If anyone tells you nearly all ICE arrests are legal or abuses are vanishingly rare, ask them to show you the numbers. The truth is more ambiguous, and that means we need transparency and oversight now more than ever. It's time to hold ICE accountable without abandoning the rule of law. D. Abolish ICE. This is, from what I can gather, really the crowd favorite here. This one's a go-to chant for anyone who thinks feelings are a substitute for policy. So let's break it down. You want to abolish ICE? Then who's going to track down violent felons, cartel affiliates, and international criminals already living in the US? Your dog walker? The mailman? A group of fair-skinned volunteers with dyed hair, clipboards, and weird vibes? They don't just disappear into thin air. Let's be oh so crystal clear. Immigration law without enforcement is just a polite suggestion. And no country on this damn earth runs on polite suggestions. Not Japan, not Sweden, not Canada, not even Mexico, bruh. I highly recommend you look into how hard it is to become a Mexican citizen. Before you can even apply, you have to be a resident for at least 5 years. Then it's documents, apostilles, notarizations, visits to your immigration offices, God knows how many. Yo ass gotta speak Spanish better than a Chihuahua. Pass Mexican history and cultural tests. You gotta get a perfect blindfolded piñata hitting score not just once but 5 times in a row after 10 tequila shots, and then you wait. A long, long time. These are the same countries people love to praise as humane and progressive. Well, maybe not Mexico. You know what I'm saying. Yet they enforce immigration strictly and unapologetically. Nobody cries racism when Japan deports someone. But if the US does it, suddenly it's a hate crime. Why? Well, because we specialize in giving entitled fools a megaphone. Freedom, eating itself alive. So what's the plan if we ditch ICE? Just hope everyone behaves? Cross your fingers that no foreign gang members or fugitives slip through? That's not policy, that's a fantasy. Look, if someone is here illegally, that is already breaking the law. It doesn't matter if they've got a clean record or if they've been working hard for years. Illegal entry is still illegal. Period. As tragic and heartbreaking as it may be, if they get deported, that's not cruelty, despite what strong emotions you might feel. That is the consequence. Now, if ICE were deporting legal citizens, like a Mexican American with full legal status, then yeah, burn it down. But that's not what's happening. ICE goes after people who never went through the process, who ignored the rules, and who came in under false pretenses. You don't get a pass because you laid low long enough. Hard work doesn't rewrite the law. This whole abolish ICE thing, it's loud, emotional, and deeply unserious. You don't shut down an agency just because it makes people uncomfortable and breaks hearts. You fix what's broken. You don't toss out the whole damn toolkit. Where are these protesters holding common sense prisoner? Please tell me. I must know. 4. What protesters never talk about. The real-world consequences. Here's what you never hear in those chants. The cost of illegal immigration. The people it hurts. The system it overloads. The jobs it takes. The citizens it displaces. Let's break it down. Job market distortion. They took our jobs, they took our jobs. Illegal immigration warps entire industries. They took our jobs, took our jobs. According to the Pew Research Center in 2023, undocumented immigrants make up about 15 to 20% of workers in construction, agriculture, food prep, and hospitality. These aren't jobs Americans won't do. That's a very lazy lie. They're jobs Americans used to do until wages were gutted by a flood of off-the-books labor. Businesses like these don't generally pick the better worker. They pick the cheaper one. Although an excellent argument can be made, the illegal immigrant will almost always do the job way better and be way more reliable. They get no tax returns, no benefits, and can't complain. That squeezes legal residents and low-income citizens out. Not because they can't work, but because they won't tolerate slave wages. Healthcare collapse. ERs, particularly in sanctuary cities, are overwhelmed. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in 2021 stated, under EMTALA law, hospitals must treat all patients regardless of immigration status or ability to pay. According to a 2020 report by FAIR, Federation of American Immigration Reform, illegal immigration costs U.S. hospitals an estimated $7 billion annually in uncompensated cares. It's a little bit more complicated than that. We'll get into that later. It is noble, but until you're in a city where ERs are underfunded, short-staffed, and flooded with non-paying residents from other countries here illegally, when you're there with your father who has a severe blood clot and you have to wait hours in the ER as it is at overload capacity with people who don't speak English, well, knowing it could break off at any moment and go to his heart and kill him is, well, you might find it easy to dismiss all this stuff until it affects you personally. But that's just how life goes. This doesn't just impact costs. It affects triage times, quality of care, and staffing burnout. It hits the working class hardest. Public infrastructure breakdown. We build our public services, housing, schools, transportation, welfare, based on census estimates. In 2024, Pew Research Center estimated that there are 11 million undocumented people in the U.S., many unaccounted. Systems built for 330 million are quietly covering many more. That means overcrowded classrooms and overstretched infrastructure in neighborhoods across the country. Affordable housing is strained, and public transit in border state cities is overloaded. These impacts don't land in gated communities, private schools, and luxury hospital floors for the rich. Again, they hit everyday citizens. Who actually benefits? It's not about migrants winning. Sure, they make more here than back home, but they're often exploited, underpaid, and disposable. The real winners are primarily from 3 groups. 1. Corporations. According to a 2020 report from the Economy Policy Institute, industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality save billions annually by hiring undocumented workers, who are less likely to unionize or report labor violations. 2. Politicians, who get votes by signaling virtue and pretending it's about compassion. It's about votes. Trump and Biden follow votes, money, and power. It's the holy trinity of politics. And most dangerously, the cartels, who according to a 2021 report from the Department of Homeland Security earn up to $13 billion annually from human smuggling alone. Every migrant moving through the border is a dollar sign. Human trafficking, drug smuggling, extortion, this is organized crime on a global scale. They profit off chaos. So when you defend illegal immigration as humanitarian, Remember, you're doing PR for the most violent organizations in the Western Hemisphere. Good job. 5. Illegal immigrants' contribution. The math that melts Fox News brains. Illegal immigration isn't some black and white morality theater play. The vast majority of undocumented immigrants clearly aren't villains. They're human beings. And most of them do bring a lot to the table. They work hard and keep industries afloat. In industries like agriculture, construction, hospitality, and food service, undocumented workers often form the backbone. I've worked a lot of kitchens, and I trust and prefer a predominantly Hispanic back-of-house team any day. They're more dependable, ice cold under fire, and funny as hell. You won't find many Americans, at least reliably anyway, lining up to scrub dishes in a greasy, hot, steaming pit for $12 an hour. But you'll find plenty of undocumented workers showing up early and staying late. No complaints, no ego. They have an appreciation for opportunity that, as Americans, it's nearly impossible for us to comprehend. We take so much for granted. They send money home and support entire communities. According to the World Bank in 2022, migrants in the U.S. sent over $60 billion in remittances to Latin America, helping their loved ones. That's not pocket change, especially in those countries. That's an economic lifeline. That doesn't make them heroes, but it does show the moral math they're doing. Sacrifice here so someone else eats there. If you don't have compassion for that, you are next level heathen. They pay taxes, a lot more than you think. This is where things get fun. Think undocumented immigrants pay nothing? Think again. They do pay sales tax, property tax via rent, and often payroll taxes. Some file with fake social security numbers or ITINs. According to the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy in July 2024, an estimated 10.9 million undocumented immigrants contributed $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022. $96.7 billion. About $8,889 per person. Now, if you remember, as I stated before, they also cost about $7 billion annually in healthcare. So fine. Net that out to $89.7 billion if you want. But here's what changes the game. Of that $96.7 billion, $59.4 billion went to federal taxes and $37.3 billion to state and local governments, funding schools, roads, and emergency services. And a chunk of that $37.3 billion flows right back into the same systems they use: schools, roads, hospitals. Exact numbers vary by state, but the idea that they're just draining resources, bullshit. They are helping foot the bill. Do their taxes fully cover their costs? The short answer, no. It's messy. But they offset a hell of a lot more than the outrage mob admits. I could drop the hammer here and compare their $8,889 average tax contributions to what the average native-born American pays versus what they take from Social Security and Medicare, but instead, let's just look at the undeniable math. They pay $9.3 billion toward healthcare via taxes, completely covering their $7 billion in uncompensated care costs. They pump $15 billion into Social Security through fake Social Security numbers, money they're legally barred from ever collecting. Meanwhile, 74% of American households receive more in government benefits than they pay in taxes. That's from the Tax Foundation of 2023. The bottom line, they're not just takers. They contribute 1,000 times more than the right-wing fear machines want you to think. They're not the enemy, the system is. These folks don't write labor laws. They don't set border policy. They don't fund cartels. Okay, technically, yeah, they do end up funding cartels since billions flows to smugglers to get them across, but you know what I mean. They're not the ones pulling the strings. They're just surviving in the system we allow to exist. If you really do want a villain, look at the politicians using immigration as a campaign prop. Look at the corporations hiring undocumented workers under the table. Look at the cartels exploiting chaos. The migrant isn't the architect of this mess. They're just caught up in it. So yeah, it really does go without saying, a lot of these folks are good people, some even biblical pillars of their community, and they often contribute more than they take. But here's the catch. That doesn't change the facts. They still broke the law, and this country can't run on compassion alone. It runs on structure. Structure don't give a damn about our feelings. It sucks. But it is necessary for us to not devolve into anarchy. Acknowledging the good doesn't weaken the argument. It strengthens it. Because real solutions start with truth, not thoughtless emotional slogans. 6. Why ICE needs a reckoning, not abolition. ICE has real, serious problems, and they deserve tougher, not softer scrutiny. In 2020, U.S. citizen Peter Sean Brown was detained by ICE for weeks. Despite repeatedly proving his citizenship, it took public outcry to get him released. And he wasn't alone. Los Angeles Times reported a 2018 investigation found ICE wrongfully detained hundreds of U.S. citizens over the previous decade. But it gets worse once you're in the system. The 2022 DHS Inspector General report revealed abusive conditions inside ICE detention centers, lack of medical care, spoiled food, mold, and denied legal access. Whistleblowers have described medical neglect so severe that women underwent unnecessary hysterectomies without consent. The 2023 Government Accountability Office report confirmed ICE's detainee tracking system is dangerously broken, especially for children. We're not just detaining people, we're disappearing them. Human Rights Watch found 1,488 migrant children lost track of, mostly during Trump-era family separations. Thousands more remain unaccounted for. RFK Human Rights and American Civil Liberties Union reports detainees face shackling, filthy water, contaminated food, sexual assault, and deprivation, legally considered torture. NPR uncovered DHS's internal reviews calling detention conditions barbaric, including solitary confinement lasting over 2 years, causing serious injuries, illnesses, and deaths. Pregnant women were denied mental health care. At least 28 miscarriages were reported over 2 years. Oversight failures are systemic. A bipartisan Government Accountability Office report from January 2023 found ICE holds tens of thousands of detainees without adequate inspections or data analysis, and 7 recommendations remain unimplemented. This isn't one bad apple. It's a broken system in the shadows, with private contractors profiting while cutting corners and ignoring accountability. And that's just a snapshot. The horror stories go on and on and on and on. Anyone can spend hours researching these abuses and find nightmare after nightmare. And here's the but that I have to keep getting back to. Here's the reality check. Abolition isn't the answer. Despite these horrific flaws that need to be changed, ICE still isn't the enemy. Unchecked crime is. They catch traffickers, cartel operatives, and violent fugitives. Real reform means smarter enforcement, safer raids, humane conditions, no paramilitary midnight invasions Call of Duty style, and full legal access for detainees. Transparent oversight must be mandatory. Journalists shouldn't have to sue for Freedom of Information Act requests or rely on congressional pressure just to expose inhumane conditions. Like any agency, police, military, federal, it's messy and sometimes brutal. You don't burn it down though. You hold it accountable. If protesters took to the streets demanding ICE reform instead of abolition, I'd be right there with them. We need to fix the agency, not the need for it. Because without enforcement, laws mean nothing. and that chaos doesn't help anyone. 7. About me. Some context. I'm a third-generation Mexican-American from Arizona. My dad's from a border town and didn't speak any English till he was 8. My nana and tata were born and raised in Mexico and never learned any English. And I wouldn't be here if they hadn't come over illegally. I grew up in the desert sticks, surrounded by white and Mexican Americans. That's pretty much it. And we never even thought about that stuff growing up. My dad's half white, half Mexican, and mi madre es white as snow. And so yes, I am about as güero as it gets for a Mexican American. For any of you more legit Hispanics out there wondering where I fall on the scale of legit. But just know, I wear my socks high, Holmes, so you know I'm down, fool. The fact that I have to, because I have varicose veins, doesn't even matter, dog. This all might sound irrelevant. Certainly kind of feels irrelevant saying it, but I think it might be important to say. Because even if I do start to sound cold or robotic at times, the truth is, I feel these emotions too. I'm praying these good people I've met, worked alongside, and grown to care about never get caught. And no, I haven't had the experience of my family getting deported. Maybe that kind of pain would blunt my ability to think critically and rationally too. I don't know. I truly don't know. But the position I'm in does allow me to feel deep compassion for this situation and still stay grounded in reason. If I were personally affected, maybe I'd be out there too shouting, "Abolish ICE forever, let them all stay, eradicate border patrol, tear down that wall, Gorbachev." But just because you're close to an issue doesn't make you an expert on it, and it definitely doesn't guarantee rationality. If a detective's spouse or child is murdered, they're not allowed to work that case, because they'd come at it with rage, not reason. That analogy, of course, isn't perfect. It's full of holes when you really think about it, but I do think the general point still stands. Maybe not. 8. Final message. Criticizing illegal immigration doesn't make you heartless. It means you care about fairness, laws, security, and stability. It means believing in a system where everyone, citizens, legal immigrants, newcomers, play by the same rules. Somewhere along the way, we got hooked on feelings, outrage, and hashtags. Meanwhile, real people, citizens and legal immigrants, are crushed beneath this chaos, told to shut up or ignored altogether. We should be demanding immigration reform, not open borders, calling for ICE reform, not abolition. And I'm certainly not above criticism. Far from it, really. If you're watching and thinking, how did you miss this or that, or think this or that, call me out. I want your perspective. I want to be challenged and to be illuminated by ideas I haven't thought of or seen yet. I guarantee some of my stances aren't perfect here, or anywhere for that matter, but with good debates, they can become wiser. This conversation needs all voices capable of reason, nuance, and critical thought. Critical thinking isn't dead. But if we want to keep it alive, we have to fight for it at all costs. Because only through fairness, respect for the law, and honest dialogue can we build an immigration system that works for everyone. If you found this video engaging and thought-provoking, I hope you consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.